Hi, hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Soumya. This video is on photosynthesis. As we are going to discuss the concept, that is energy concepts. And in the previous video, we were talking or discussing about the photosynthetic pigments, that is chlorophyll, carotenoids, and phycobilins. So these are the photosynthetic pigments. These pigments helps in the process of photosynthesis. These are the ones which actually absorbs the radiating energy, that is sunlight. And in the previous video we also discussed about the photoinhibition means it is the inhibition of photosynthesis by excessive light, means high light in intensity, which is resulting in the reduction of plant growth and development. And also we discussed about the points on carotenoids and also phycobilins. Now we will move on to the energy concept. What is this energy concept here? We know that to do any work we need energy, and also the process of photosynthesis has to occur, a kind of energy is needed, right? So visible radiation is the PAR, that is photosynthetically active radiation. Visible radiation means the visible light. Okay, it is the what is it? It is the PAR. PAR means photosynthetically active radiation. This visible radiation is the one actually which helps in the photosynthesis process. That's why that visible radiation is also called as PAR, that is photosynthetically active radiation. Okay, the amount of absorption of light of different wavelength by pigments is called as absorption spectrum. This absorption spectrum here, the amount of absorption of light of different wavelength by pigments is called as absorption spectrum. Means I have in the previous video I have told there are mainly 3 to 4 pigments, right? First one is chlorophyll, carotenoids, and phycobilins and flavonoids. So in these 3 or in these 4, the important ones are chlorophylls, carotenoids, and phycobilins. So these 3 are the photosynthetic pigments, and these 3 photosynthetic pigments absorbs the radiant energy or sunlight, okay, of different wavelength. Okay, then that is called as absorption spectrum. Chlorophyll absorbs the light wavelength, that is about 400 to 500 nanometer and 600 to 700 nanometer. Means this chlorophyll absorbs the visible light wavelength. Okay, visible light wavelength which is ranges from 400 to 500 nanometer and 600 to 700 nanometer. So it absorbs the all the colors except green color. Okay, and moving on to the carotenoids. Carotenoids wavelength ranges from 400 to 500 nanometer, and phycobilins the wavelength ranges from 500 to 650 nanometer. And also we know that chlorophyll is the principal pigment and carotenoids and phycobilins are the accessory pigments, right? So these carotenoids and phycobilins, these accessory pigments helps the chlorophyll. Okay, these also absorb the sunlight, but which acts as a assisting pigments to the chlorophyll. I guess you have know all about all these points in the previous video which I have explained in that video. If you didn't watch that video, you can watch that video so that you will get to know about the photosynthetic pigments if you are interested. Thank you. Moving on to the next point, submerged photosynthetic organisms. Submerged photosynthetic organisms means which are submerged, means which are in the water. Okay, those are brown algae and red algae, contains accessory pigments that enable them to absorb blue and green light, since red light do not penetrate deeper into the water. Yes, so because inside the water only blue and green color are able to penetrate, but red color is not able to penetrate. That's why these brown algae and red algae contains only accessory pigments, that is carotenoids and phycobilins. So the chlorophyll is absent. Okay, and here I said photosynthetically active radiation. What is this photosynthetically active radiation? I just now I have explained. I will just repeat once again here. This PAR, it is the wavelength of light that sits within the visible range of 400 to 700 nanometer. Or you can say it is the type of the light required for photosynthesis. That's what I said here. So here what happens in case of submerged photosynthetic organisms, chlorophyll ranges from 400 to 700. Okay, but carotenoids and phycobilins ranges from 400 to 650. So these are only can able to penetrate into the water. Blue light wavelength is 450 nanometer and green light wavelength is 550 nanometer, and these two have the same range of wavelength as that of the accessory pigment, so that they can absorb. And the effectiveness of light of different wavelengths on photosynthesis is called as action spectrum. So there is a slight difference here. There's a difference between what is absorption spectrum and what is action spectrum. The difference here is that it is the effectiveness of light of different wavelength on photosynthesis called action spectrum. Here the amount of absorption of light of different wavelength by the pigments, it is called as absorption spectrum. Okay, and here red light is most effective in PS, in photosynthesis, and green light is the least effective in photosynthesis. Now moving on to the next point, when chlorophyll molecules absorbs a photon, it converts from ground state, okay, from energy of the ground state to an excited state, that is EEE. Chlorophyll molecules get excited when the energy of the photon is greater than the ground state energy of the chlorophyll. The chlorophyll molecules can return to a lower energy level or its ground state by dissipation of the excess electronic excitation of energy. So chlorophyll is the one which absorbs the sunlight, right? So when chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight, means it absorbs a photon. What is this photon? Photon is nothing but it is an energy molecule. Okay, photon is the energy pocket molecule of the radiant energy, that is visible light, okay, sunlight. Okay, this photon, when chlorophyll absorbs a molecule called as photon, means this energy molecule, and it converts from ground state to an excited state. For example, just make you to understand, think this is the ground state, okay, and this is the excited state. Okay, and when chlorophyll absorbs the photon, okay, absorbs the photon, this chlorophyll get excited, from converted to an, from ground state to an energy state. It moves from ground state to an energy state, excited state. Chlorophyll molecules get excited when the energy of the photon is greater than the ground state energy of the chlorophyll. This chlorophyll, the chlorophyll molecule gets excited, is molecule get excited when the energy of this photon, energy of this photon is greater than this ground state, so that it will move from ground state to an excited energy state. The chlorophyll molecule can return to a lower energy level or its ground state by dissipation of the excess electronic excitation energy. And when it goes here, if it has to come down, then there should be a dissipation. What is this dissipation? As I said in the previous video, dissipation means decaying in the energy, or you can say loss of energy. When there is a loss of energy, then only the photons which are in the excited state, then only they will come to the ground state. Photon energy is high in the ground state, higher than the ground state, then it will move to excited state. If this energy is get reduced here, then it will move to the ground state. The excitation energy can be dissipated, lost or declined by the following modes. Now the photon is in the excited state. Okay, then how the energy is going to reduce in the excited state? That is by following 4 modes, that is internal conversion, second one fluorescence, third one photooxidation, fourth one resonance energy transfer. Now we will move on to the next points here. We will learn the first one here. First one, internal conversion or relaxation. What happens here? The molecule, now imagine the molecule or the photon is in the high energy state, obviously the state here. Okay, this excess electronic excitation energy is dissipated as the kinetic energy of the molecular motion, that is heat. So in internal conversion, what happens? Internal means inside, conversion means converting this higher energy into a lower energy. How it is converted into higher, from higher to the lower? By dissipation, means by loss of energy. How it is going to loss? By it is going to loss as a heat. Okay, so dissipated as a kinetic energy of the molecular motion. Next one, fluorescence. Fluorescence, a molecule absorbs a photon of shorter wavelength and re-emits the excess energy in the form of photon in longer wavelength. Next, chlorophyll shows red fluorescence in solution. Okay, and in phosphorescence, the excess energy is released in a delayed manner due to forbidden transition state of the energy. So what is this Phosphorescence. Phosphorescence means it is a process in which the energy absorbed by a substance is released relatively slowly in the form of light. Okay, in phosphorescence we can see are these actual fluorescence and phosphorescence, you can say that they will helps in the photoluminescence. Those are the causes for the photoluminescence. You know what is photoluminescence? Photoluminescence means some substances are glowing in the dark, that is called as photoluminescence, right? So these in phosphorescence, this excess energy, obviously we are talking about the excited energy, that energy released in a delayed manner. Now we are talking about the how the loss of the how this excited energy losing its excess energy. So one way is by a kinetic energy of molecular motion. The second one is by release in a delayed manner. The excess of energy is released in a delayed manner due to a forbidden transition state of the energy. Next one, moving on to third one, photooxidation or photoelectron transfer. So as in the name indicates, oxidation, there is a oxidation of the light. Okay, the here photooxidation we can define like this: the oxidation reaction happening in the presence of light. Okay, how it is going to happen? We already know there will be donor and there will be acceptor. So donor I have represented as D and acceptor I just represented as A. Okay, this donor energy is going to gain, and her energy is in the excited state now. Okay, and when it is in excited state, it is going to release an electron. Okay, when it is releases the electron, and here it transfers the electrons to the acceptor.
Photo-induced charge suppression. Photo means light. Light-induced charge suppression.
Okay, that is called as photo-oxidation. Moving on to the next one, that is resonance energy transfer or exciton transfer. A molecule transfer energy directly to another molecule with similar electronic property. So what is this resonance energy transfer? Resonance energy transfer or exciton transfer means, think there are two molecules, a molecule A and molecule B. So think this is the molecule A and molecule B. If these two molecules have similar electronic property, if these molecules have similar electronic property, then these molecules can transfer the energy directly to one another, because they have a similar electronic property. The energy is transferred by electromagnetic interaction through space. And how the energy is transferred? Energy is transferred through a electromagnetic interactions. It is Stark-Einstein energy law. What is this Stark-Einstein energy law, or it is also called as photochemical equivalence law? Obvious that any molecule absorbs only one photon, means only one pocket of energy from the sunlight at a time and releases only one electron. I repeat once again, any molecule absorbs only one photon at a time and releases only one electron. Now let's begin with the mechanism of light phase. So this mechanism of light phase, that the process of photosynthesis, it includes the two reaction, that is light dependent reaction or light phase or light reaction. And second one is dark reaction or or light independent reaction. So light phase and dark phase actually makes the photosynthesis process. Okay. Now we will first begin with the light phase and later we will move on to the dark phase, because light phase itself has so many steps here. You can say around 7 steps are there. I have to explain one by one neatly. Okay. First we will start with the first one. It is a what is this light phase? It is a photochemical process. Okay. Photochemical process. Photo means light and it is a chemical process, and it occurs where it is going to occur in a thylakoid membrane. Diagram here I have displayed over here. So the light phase is going to occur on thylakoid membrane. You have to remember. So this point is important. They will ask where the light phase is going to take place, or where the dark phase is going to take place. So light phase is going to take place on the thylakoid membrane. Now moving on to the what are the steps are included in the light phase. First one, photolysis of water. First one. Second one, immersion enhancement effect. Third one, molecular configuration and orientation of supramolecular complexes, or you can say domains or assemblies. And fourth one, mechanism of NET, non-cyclic electron transport. And this mechanism of non-cyclic electron transport, it includes another three steps, that is photolysis of water and release of O2 oxygen, transfer of electrons from water to NADP plus from NADPH, and then third one, ATP synthesis, that is energy molecule is synthesized, that is called as photophosphorylation. Okay, these are all the steps are included in the non-cyclic electron transport. And moving on to the fifth one, that is mechanism of cyclic electron transport, where NADPH dehydrogenase enzyme dependent cyclic electron transport, that this one we are going to study, this mechanism we are going to study in mechanism of cyclic electron transport. And the next one, NADH independent CET, okay, where there is a synthesis of ATP in this process. And the next one, reduction of potential values. And the seventh one, inhibition of light phase, how the light phase is going to inhibited, what are the factors that inhibits the light phase. Okay, so we are going to study all these in detail and digging deeper into the content here. Okay, before we just studied about the definition and some factors and all like that, but we are now studying the actual process of the photosynthesis
in detail and step by step.
Now let's begin with the first one, that is photolysis of water. It is very easy here. You can look at here, photolysis of water. We already know this. Lysis means breakdown, right? And photo means light. So here what happens in this photolysis of water, this light energy is going to break down the water molecule. How it is going to break down, that's what we are going to study now. Okay, that's why that is called as photolysis of water. And there is a scientist name called as Van Niel, was the first to propose water as the source of oxygen released in the photosynthesis. When photosynthesis is going to occur, so that time water releases the oxygen, and by photosynthesis we know that for photosynthesis, where it is going to absorb carbon dioxide, water and sunlight and releases the oxygen. Okay, that releases the oxygen we are going to respire, we are going to intake the oxygen and we are going to remove out the carbon dioxide. So this scientist, that is Van Niel, is the one who proposed that water as the source of oxygen release in photosynthesis. So we know that we got to know that by photosynthesis process we are going to get the oxygen. So now the question is, how oxygen is released by photosynthesis process? How photosynthesis is going to occur by water, carbon dioxide and sunlight, right? So here he said that this water is the reason water is the source for the release of oxygen. Who said this? That is Van Niel. And there is another scientist named called as Rofin Hill, was the first to experimentally prove water has the source of O2. He proposed it, but experimentally proved by a Rofin Hill. Okay, so water is the source of O2. And
Rofin Hill did the experiment by using a isolated chloroplast and water and radiant energy and hydrogen acceptor.
Isolated chloroplast means which absorbs the sunlight along with the water and radiant energy, and hydrogen acceptor. So hydrogen acceptor means the hydrogen is accepted by the acceptor. Okay, so then there is a release of oxygen. Now the question is that here, so when this O2 has to separate, it has to divide
hydrogen and oxygen.
Then this hydrogen should be accepted by the hydrogen acceptor. Then what are those hydrogen acceptors which are present in this process? Those are actually called as hydrogen acceptors or Hill oxidants. Okay, those are quinones, potassium ferric cyanide, third one potassium oxalate. These three are the hydrogen acceptor. So when these absorb the hydrogen or accept the hydrogen from the water, then that will lead to a release of oxygen. Now moving on to the next point. Here how the photolysis is going to happen, I'm going to explain now. Here water H2O splits in the presence of sunlight into electrons, protons and oxygen. So water in madute, when there is a presence of sunlight, this water is going to split into electrons, then protons and oxygen. Okay, and this phenomenon is called as photolysis of water or Hill reaction. So this is important. What is Hill reaction or photolysis of water? Very easy one. So water is going to split into electron, proton and oxygen in the presence of sunlight. Okay, so you can look at here, I have explained that with the equation here. Water, okay, so it is split into a electron, proton and oxygen. Okay, and these two molecules of electron and two molecules of proton forms the hydrogen, right? That's what I am explaining here. And after this release of this hydrogen, these two molecules of electron and two molecules of proton releases a hydrogen, right? This hydrogen is accepted by A, means acceptor. Okay, the acceptor, just now I have mentioned, it may be a quinone or potassium ferric cyanide or potassium oxalate. So any acceptor is going to accept this hydrogen, forms this molecule. Okay, that's about the Hill's reaction. Now moving on to the next point. The native hydrogen acceptor in plants is NADP plus. This you have to remember here. This point is important here. Who is that hydrogen acceptor here? The hydrogen acceptor in plants is NADP plus. Okay, and water molecules undergoes photolysis in the purpose of donating electrons, in the purpose of donating the electrons to NADP plus by electron transport. This is important, you have to remember this point. So why water is going a photolysis? Because of the purpose to donate the electrons to the NADP plus by electron transport. Okay, so you can see in the diagram here, I explained in the light phase there is a electron carriers. Okay, electrons are carried and it is given to the NADP plus. I guess you are observing in the diagram, right? So that is called as electron transport system. So electron has to transport. Then where is the electrons to transport? Someone has to give the electrons, then only the electron carriers are going to carry the electron and give it to the NADP plus, right? So electrons, where we are getting those electrons? That is by water. Water is going to split into electrons, protons and oxygens in the presence of sunlight. Those electrons are again carried by the electron carriers to the NADP plus. Okay, and this process actually releases the oxygen. Okay, so this was given, this equation was given by scientists named called as Ruben, Kamen and Randall. So carbon dioxide plus water gives rise to carbohydrates and there is a release of oxygen. That's about the photolysis of water. In the next video we are going to study about all these things in detail, and these are all important. Okay, so in the next video possibly we will cover these two, second one and third one, and I'm hoping this video is helpful. I am very much glad to share my knowledge with you all. Please do share and subscribe. Thank you everyone.